Fat trade paperback, flocking to the
I'm joined by the amazing Allison O'Toole, Dan Price, Andre Owen, Fred Kennedy,
Chip Zdarsky. Chip, thanks for coming.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and today we're joined by Mark, and we're going to talk about their new book, So-Called Living, coming to Kickstarter soon. Mark, thanks for taking the time to come on the show, man. Oh, I think you're muted.
All those technical tests for nothing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we're not doing it right, let's have fun at least.
Well, yeah, no, thanks for having me on. And I was grooving to the tune. I think that's what distracted me. I was like getting into it. It was getting funky.
Wordburglar is amazing. Actually, interestingly, Toronto rapper who raps near exclusively about nerdy things like comic books and G.I. Joe.
Are you in Toronto?
Yes. Well, no, I'm in Richmond Hill. So if you're not from the area, yes. If you're from Toronto, I'm definitely not from Toronto.
I was born and raised in Toronto, actually.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not from Toronto. Wait, where are you located now?
London, Ontario.
Oh, right.
I moved here for work. So I left, and now I can never afford to go back because houses are $1 billion.
Yep. Yes. No, I actually, my childhood friend, Richard, he finished, college. He actually didn't technically finish college, but he got a job and he moved out to London, got a house with his partner, now wife, and they did the whole thing. And I'm sitting there going, man, I thought he was moving fast at like 25, but he had it figured out. Mm-hmm. So, I think you made the right move. But yes, suffice to say, Mark, we're here to talk about your book. So first question, nice and easy, for the folks at home who've maybe never seen your face, never heard your name. Let's start with, who is Mark?
Well, Mark's a lot of people. I'm going to give you a close, make it short. As short as I can. I'm also a rambler. I'll toss that in there. Mark is a video game designer for 23 years, going on 24 years of video game experience. Recently left the industry to focus on my Board Game Coffee YouTube channel, which is focused on board games. So I do a lot of how to plays and previews and reviews, that type of thing. A few, there you go. You got it right there. Oh, yeah. and now I'm working on writing a comic book, which is So-Called Living. And it's like my passion to I've always wanted to do a comic book. I'm a big comic book guy. I'm more of a comic book guy than I am a board game guy. So why I decided to start a board game channel instead of a comic book channel, I have no idea why. Like, I've been reading comics since I was 15, and I started board games in like my mid 30s. So, anyways. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And very much so. As a fellow YouTuber, though definitely not as successful, 15,000.2 subscribers. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know what? For folks who maybe want to check out your board game content, because I find often us nerds tend to be into board games, video games, nerdy movies, comic books, and the like. What does your channel do? Obviously, it's about board games. What kind of stuff do you do?
Well, currently we're focused a lot on how to play videos, which is, we just instruct people on how to play. Actually, I think the one that comes up at the main video is Tenare's How to Play video, which is a game that's that version is not even available to the public yet. But we're currently working on Mythwind, which is, that's one of the rule books. It's one of them, because basically the game I'm working on now is actually comprised of 6 videos. There's a core game, so I teach you how to play the core game, and then I also teach you how to play each individual character in 5 separate videos, because each character plays completely differently. So that's what I do, and so that's my full-time job, is creating videos for people for their products. So.
Very cool. And a nice hello from Brittany. Hello, Brittany.
That's it. That's my wife. She's watching.
Hi, Brittany. Brittany, well, now that we're doing this publicly and people will be able to see this forever, feel free to throw in some oddball questions for me so we can stumble Mark. So then, Mark, the obvious question: you've got this whole huge, big YouTube channel on board games. You're very clearly involved with them, as we've discussed prior to, and people can see in the background. You do quite a bit of filming. Why make comics next? What was the drive?
Well,
What made you want to do that?
well, that's the thing. Comics weren't necessarily next. Like I wrote the script for So-Called Living like 14 years ago. And I wrote it 14 years ago, and the plan was, because I am an artist by trade, but sequential art isn't my thing. So that's what we need for comic books. So that's never, I'm more of a one piece type of deal, or an animator is mostly what I've done. That's mostly, and I was going to say, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I wrote this script, and I wasn't the right artist for it. So I wanted to find artists, and I work with a lot of artists because I was art director, creative director for years. So I knew a lot of artists. And at first, much like many other writers, my plan was I'm going to write a book, and then I'm going to find a partner to partner up with, and we'll do this book together. So I got the idea on paper. And the first time I wrote it, I didn't know how to format a script properly. So I just wrote it. I had final dialogue in there, and I had like panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. But I even for the descriptions, I had a vague description of what was happening in the panel.
Okay.
But I also had like no page breaks. So it was just like panel 1 to 236. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just like, and because I was just trying to get the story out. Anyways, so my plan of like, I'm going to go find an artist. I talked to a few people, and in some cases we started at least two of my, I guess my fishing trips for artists did start, but, and here's the plan. So I'm going to, Konrad, you're the artist. So I got so many things going on in my head. Okay. So you're the artist, and I'm going to pitch you this idea. Okay. So I was like, okay, here's the idea, Konrad. I've got this story, and I want you to illustrate it because I love your artwork. So, and here's how we're going to do it. As far as pay goes, first of all, I can't afford to pay you anything now. I have nothing to give you. So here's what we're going to do. If you want to work together on this, we'll split this. It was not 50-50. It was 49-51. And the reason for that was because if there was any final decisions to be made, I would be the one to make them because I'd have the majority control. Okay, yeah. But, and that's only if it came down to it. Like if it was like a make or break decision, I had to come down to it. But other than that, so that was fine. And I was like, okay, here's how the pay is going to work. I will pay for getting the book printed. I will pay for any overhead costs that we have other than paying for your work because I can't afford you right now. And then once we start making money, I'll pay myself back first to basically pay myself back for the printing cost. So I get that money back, bring us to zero. And then after that, my plan was, I was like, I'll give you the first like $5,000 the book makes. And after that, we split everything else 50-50. That was it. So it was like, even if I don't know, who knows if the book will even make 5,000. So like you'll get technically all the profits. I just want to get this book out there. So this proposition worked for a little bit. But the problem was I was approaching artists that have full-time jobs. They're great artists. They have full-time jobs. So it's hard to work all day as an artist, then go home and slave all day as an artist. So it's just a lot of work. And I understand. I was like, I totally get it. I wasn't upset. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to work with them because they were great artists. But I get it. Like I totally understand why it wasn't a feasible thing it wasn't a good life choice for you. Right. So anyways, that's how pretty much all of my artist plans fell through. So since I couldn't afford an artist, I couldn't find a good artist to team up with. I couldn't find a good artist. I couldn't find an artist that could stick with it to the end because again, of the amount of work required. So I put it away for 14 years and then, or maybe 15. It's been a long time. And recently, now like, because me and Brittany have been together for 8, 9 years. Brett, what's the number there? Let's say 9. It's 9 or 10, right? So, but recently, like last year, I decided, you know what, I'm going to bring So-Called Living back. I dusted off the script, and I learned a lot of things about how to write a script. I also learned about like what kind of information artists are looking for. I've worked with artists that are like, they just want a rough outline of like, give me a rough idea of what's happening here and I'll figure it out. And I have other artists that's like, I want you to tell me exactly what's happening in this panel. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have a whole bunch of back and forth. There's a lot of work involved. I just want to know exactly what's happening, right? And then if I have any questions, I'll ask you before I even start. So because it's all written down, so they know what's happening.
Exactly.
So anyways, I decided, well, this time I'm going to take a totally different route, and I'm just going to outright hire an artist. So I'm doing this. See, I think close to 9. She doesn't know either. But I decided I'm going to go to look at like how Marvel does it, how DC does it, or how like Bon Jovi does it, which I've heard it's just Bon Jovi. It's just John Bon Jovi, and he hires his band. They're not all equals. He just hires musicians to play with them, right? So that's what I was like. I'm just going to be a writer. I'm going to control everything. It's just going to be my thing, and I will hire an artist, have them sign a contract saying all the work they create is mine. I own everything. There's no legal issues later.
Yep.
And I was like, and the deal is here, you're going to get paid right up front. Completely different than before. You get paid guaranteed. The book, even if I decide not to do anything, the artist who's done the book so far, they're paid already. Yep. So the idea is that that's how it would work. Because if you basically, the premise, if you don't want to take the risk with me, then if it does gain rewards, then you don't get to share in those rewards. I think that's fair. I've been in a similar situation where I was the one got paid up front, and I was like, I totally get it. You know, I understand you took the risk, you get the reward. I understand that concept. But again, if for some reason So-Called Living is like next Walking Dead, right? But if it was, then I would absolutely share in that. But there's nothing on paper saying that I would guarantee do that, because I don't want to be beholden or get into legal troubles later with something stupid because of some stupid paperwork or anything. But again, Marco's great. I'm not expecting any issues, but you never know. So everything's written down on paper. So I own everything. Everybody gets paid up front, and I make nothing until the book starts making money. So,
yep.
So anyways, that was a long answer, I think.
No, but you know what? It's a good answer, and it's something that I don't really touch on a lot in the show. Like I do when I'm speaking with creators afterward, whether they're artists or writers or some mishmash of in between. And I'm just curious, right? I do this show because I'm curious, and ergo I just like to talk about this stuff. But yeah, it's funny because a lot of the times I very much advocate pay your artists. Art is expensive, and that sometimes sucks if you are a writer wanting to get something out, but pay your artists. I definitely think the offering 5,000 plus whatever after it makes 50-50, good move, but I can see why an indie artist may not want to go for it because maybe they don't get anything.
Well, that's why it's the idea of like, do you want to be a partner on this, right?
Yeah.
And so like I wasn't and when people were like, no, like, okay, no, not a problem. Because when I was back when I tried my hand at sequential art when I was much younger, that's the deal somebody made with me. They're like, I'll write the book and you illustrate. I was like, sure. Let's just do it, because I want to get a comic book out. So I was hoping to find a me, right? And but in that case, they stopped writing. They didn't even write a complete issue. So, and I was drawing, and so I was like, all right, well, that's the end of that project. So,
yep. Goodbye.
So, but yeah,
it's one of those things. I don't think I've really had a long conversation about it, but I'm curious too, from an artist perspective, like if you have a series that you feel will be really good, do you want to just get paid for the first one and then go 50-50, or I suppose it's artist to artist, but it's something I might end up asking someone. But important question and fun question to ask. How did you meet Marco?
So that was interesting. I actually put out I started another YouTube channel, which I haven't had a lot of time to dedicate time to. It's called Geek Easy. It's on YouTube. If you look up Geek Easy, I'm not even sure you'll find it. I think I did a search for it and I couldn't find it. But it's Geek Easy. I'm not even sure if it's one word or two because I haven't touched it in a while. But the idea is I was going to make a series of videos on YouTube. There's only 2 of them on there now. That kind of document my process of creating the comic book and kind of teaching, not teaching, like I guess talking through my experiences so people can learn from that, rather they either my failures or my successes. And that's I can't find it.
I was gonna say, so I found something.
Easy one word. It's easy one word.
Easy one word. Okay. Let's see here. Oh. Oh yeah, that's you. Here we go.
There you go. So
I'll pop it up on screen here real quick. There we go.
Yeah, so that's if you go to videos, I think you'll actually, if you click on the video portion, there you go. So I have part 1 and part 2 of breaking into comics as a writer, but it's not like instructions. It's more of like my experience of breaking into comics as a writer, because I've always wanted to be in comics. I thought that was going to be as an artist, but as it turns out, I actually prefer writing stories.
Right on. That's super cool.
Yeah, and I started that to kind of tell the story of the process. Sorry, I forgot the question. It related to the question. And then I told you I'm a rambler.
No, I love it. You know what? You find a lot of golden nuggets of wisdom, of personality that way. Basically, I was sort of asking like how you met Marco.
Right. That's where this came from. It all makes sense now. So I was like, okay, I want to pay an artist. Right. So this is the thing. And again, it's never that I wanted to not pay an artist. Not that I ever wanted to make money for free. That was never the intent. I worked with tons of artists and I always artists should get paid 100%. So I was looking for it. I was like, where do I hire an artist? I don't know. So I asked everybody I know that is a sequential artist, and they're pretty much all like, we've got real jobs. And you can't afford us. We've been doing this way too long. You can't afford us, right? So I was like, okay, that's fair. So then I put a call out to Facebook, being like, hey, any of my artist friends that I might like, I know teachers that run art programs, and there's a lot of people in my circles that are artists and connected to artists. So I was like, does anybody want to work on a comic? I'm paying up front. Does what I can pay? I don't know yet. We will discuss. But is anybody open for it? No bites. I had a few people being like, oh, so you're doing a comic, you're looking for an artist, cool. And I was like, yeah, do you want to do it? And they're like, no. They're like, that sounds like a lot of work, don't want to do that at all. I was like, okay. So one of my friends was like, oh, you should go on Twitter. I was like, all right, well, I don't have hey Jamie, there's
hello, James.
James Reel is one of the artists I worked with early on, and he's an amazing artist. So he also did one of our variant covers for the upcoming project. So which you can't see in that little shot you have of the
is
page.
it like it's so it's one of these two that are tucked?
Because when I put this together, Jamie wasn't done his page yet. So but when you'll see it's featured in the Kickstarter page. But anyways, where was I? So I went onto Twitter and I was like, well, I don't know how many people are going to answer. I don't know how Twitter, I don't usually use Twitter. So I put out a calling artists, and I got more responses than I could have ever, like, I couldn't apply. I couldn't respond to everybody. So there's definitely like 100 more people that I just did not respond to, because I was responding as fast as I could, looking through portfolios as fast as I could, and I couldn't get to everybody. But there was a trend happening that made me think that this isn't the right venue. It's too widespread. I need to narrow my search down. And that was if not every, 99% of the people who responded were all very anime-esque style. It's a very popular style, that anime style. It's very popular, especially in indie comics. You see it everywhere. And it's great, but I'm very strong in like the style of the artwork has to match the story.
Mhm.
So, and that anime look did not match the so-called living story. It just didn't.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
was like, that's not what I wanted. I was trying to tell people, I was like, no, it's not what I want. And there were some artists that just aren't strong artists, and I get it. And they're trying to get it. They're trying to get in there. But I was like, if I want to pay an artist, I want to pay a good artist, right? I don't want somebody who can like bring my vision to life. And there's a lot of artists out there with a lot of different flavors, but I wasn't getting a lot of different flavors. I was getting one flavor. And I was all like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
anime flavor. So I was like, well, so I just stopped. I was like, this isn't working out. So I started going to Facebook groups. And I ended up on I can't remember which one it was, like Indie Comics or something. I can't remember which
Okay.
Facebook group it was. But I was on there and somebody was telling a story. They had some great artwork, some great panels. And they were telling a story about how they paid an artist up front to do their comic. The artist did half of the work for issue 1 and then stopped and disappeared and took the money and just vanished.
Ooh,
So
great.
I was like, so, and I guess, and that can happen when you work with people you don't know, right?
Yep.
That's always a concern. So I was reading the comments, and one comment popped out, and it was from David Campetti. And now David's worked in the comic book industry for like I think over 40 years or something. If I might be getting that wrong, but he's worked with Marvel and he's worked with Stan Lee. I think he was the ghostwriter for like How to Draw Comics, like Stan Lee or something.
Oh, cool.
Like,
Okay.
Stan Lee's got a lot of books like that, so I don't remember exactly which title, but I think he wrote that. I don't know if he was ghostwriter. Maybe his name might be right there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But I can't remember that detail because it was like over a year ago when I talked to him. But anyways, he commented and he said, well, we have a studio called I think it was Glasshouse Design, I think
Okay.
is what it's called. Currently the site is being revamped, or it was last time I checked. And they basically are artists for hire. They have tons of portfolios on their site, and you could just go through and be like, oh, cool, I'm looking for an inker, I'm looking for a colorist. And you can just look at the different styles, there's different thumbnails, so you get an idea of their style right away. You click into it, opens up a portfolio. It's not the prettiest site, so I can see why they're redoing it. So, and when I went there, it currently wasn't functioning last time I was there. So I don't know if it's going to help anybody today. But it was.
I mean, it's a little rough, but like I get what they're going for.
Yeah, it was. So, but I think it's being revamped. Anyways, so I went through there and I found a bunch of artists. I was like, oh, these would be great, but I don't know how much they cost. So I emailed what I thought was the artist, but it wasn't. It was David. He basically is like the in-between guy for all the artists. Makes sense. They all come to him. He finds them work. So he's like the in-between guy. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I was talking to David, and he was we were talking about costs and how much it costs to, and I was like, wow, I was like, I don't know what I should be paying. And then we were talking costs back and forth, and I was like, wow, that's pricey. And he was like, what's your budget? I was like, I don't know. Let me step away for a second and figure this out. So I came up with a budget. Now I'm not going to say what the budget is here, and I'll explain why in a second.
Fair.
But I came up with my budget, and I was like, this is all I can afford. I don't know if this is doable. And he's like, I think I can hook you up. So hold on. So he's like, I'm going to put you in contact with my friend Salvatore in Italy. He runs another company there, and he partners up with David. And in Italy, the cost of living is less. So
yes,
I can get great artists for less. I'd love to pay somebody local, but I couldn't afford most of what people were asking. But I did find somebody who was in my budget, and it's a respectable budget. It's not cheap. So
yes, yeah.
So I started working with Salvatore. Salvatore has a company like David, and he has a bunch of other artists working underneath him. So Marco is one of those artists. So I met Marco. So I found David. David introduced me to Salvatore. Salvatore introduced me to Marco. Now there's a bit of a language barrier. So when I communicate with Marco, a lot of it is through Salvatore, who is also very Italian. So, so sometimes there's some things that have fallen through the cracks as far as like, but
interesting. Okay.
With an artist background, and again, I've worked with a lot of artists. I've worked with Jamie for years. I'll do mock-ups, and I'll bring in images from like Google, and I'll like Photoshop on top of them. I'll scribble on top of things to try to get my point across. If I can't explain it in English words that he can understand in Italian, which I understand, I can just scribble it like this, or like
you just show him. Yeah.
And two things that really stood out was I asked him to draw a parking lot. And now in my head, I was just thinking like a parking lot, like you'd see, you know, the concrete little bits, the lines, and then his parking lot just looked different. You'd never look at it in an image and be like, that's a parking lot. So I'm like, there's some lines missing. There's just things missing for a parking lot. And then he tried, and I was like, I don't think you know what kind of parking lot I'm even talking about. So I sent him an image of a parking lot being like, maybe parking lots are just look different in Italy because the city looks different. It's not like it's here and it's Italian. It looks completely different. So I sent him a picture. I was like this. So this is the kind of parking lot I need. Not that angle, just like keep the drawing, but I need the lines that look like this to make it look like a park. These are the things that would make it look like a parking lot.
Yeah.
It's actually the opening scene in book 1.
Oh, okay.
Because they're in a parking lot at a food truck.
Yeah.
So anyways, the other thing was also in that opening scene, Jack gets chili fries. And I was trying my hardest to explain to him what chili fries were. And that's why, if you actually notice the image, there's actually little chilies on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think you actually get little chilies in chili fry. But I was like, it could be like a gourmet chili fry.
Yeah.
But then I actually, the version you see in there was me drawing on top of it to make it look more like chili fries. And I'm like, that's close enough. I'll finish it from here. Because it's like he's been knocking everything else out of the park. I'll do the chili fries.
Yeah.
So that was anyways, that's how I found Marco. So Glasso Studios, if they're up and running, I strongly recommend any writer out there looking to thanks Jamie. I agree. Marco was a great match. And so I can't remember what I was gonna say, so I got distracted by Jamie's comment. His flattering comment to Marco.
Just basically about how you got sort of hooked up with him.
Yeah. So anyways, that's how my story met up with Marco. Marco's great. And that's that. I think I start talking and I just kind of black out, and then my brain catches up later, and I was like what happened?
Awesome. So, no, I love it. You know what? I think my next question for you is going to be, what is the book about? So if you could sort of explain that for folks. I'm going to bring up, I think, the page. And that way, you can sort of let them know what they're getting themselves into when they sign up for it, and let them know about the free link on Global Comics. And Mark, you do have my apologies. I've got to step away, but are you good if I let you shoot and I'll be right back?
Sure.
Alrighty, here, I'll put that up. Let them know what the book is about, and I'll be right back.
Oh, Jamie's got a question. Let's answer that before we continue. All right, so the number of issues planned for this first run is going to be, I say, around 8. The reason it's around 8 and not exactly 8, because I do have all the scripts written, but the last script is, I got to tighten it up. So to tighten it up or expand it, it's got to be cleaned up a bit. So the last script is the only one is kind of in the wind a bit. And it's either going to expand into like 8 books, or it's going to contract into 7. So once I clean that up, then I'll know for sure. But it's basically going to be a limited series up until like 8 books. And then after that, I'll probably continue with the world of so-called living, but kind of do another mini-series. So it'll be a string of mini-series. Marvel does that a lot, where it's like blah, blah, Spider-Man, and it'll be like 5 issues. So that type of thing. We got another question here. Volume 1 was so good. Can't wait for more. Great job. And your comics are good. You can do this. Well, thank you, Victor. Yeah. So if anybody's interested, if you go to Global Comics and search for So-Called Living, there's actually a free, you can read issue 1 for free right now. And the Kickstarter, which is what we're looking at here, is going to feature books 1 and 2. So you can't get them separate. They come as like a package deal. And the idea for the Kickstarter is to support the creation of the future issues, so the series can continue. So although I am paying up front, for all of this, the idea is to pay myself back, because although I can afford to make these ones, I can't I wouldn't be able to afford to make all of them on my own. So that's hence the Kickstarters to kind of get it going. And so I don't remember why we're here anymore. But there's going to be, I'll tell you a little bit about the Kickstarter. Oh no, tell you about the story. That's what it was. Sorry guys, forgive me. So the story, So-Called Living. It's about a boy named Jack. And Jack gets turned into a vampire, and his life gets turned upside down, kind of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but a vampire version. Not really. That's not at all how it goes. But he gets bitten, gets turned to a vampire against his will, and now he's got to adapt to living as a vampire. Now it's a dark comedy, so people die. We make light of it. Crappy situations happen, but all the characters kind of roll with the punches. It's got a bit of a very sarcastic humor to it. And the things like the first thing you're going to notice, the first issue, not issue as in book, as in the first problem that Jack has to deal with is he got turned to a vampire, so he can't get into his own apartment. Because the world that So-Called Living takes part in is a world that everything exists, as in there's werewolves, there's vampires, there's zombies, there's ghosts, there's all just kinds of craziness. It's all there, but it's not one of those like they exist, but they're living in the shadows. They're just living among us. Like a vampire could be your barista, or the telephone operator could be a werewolf, and everybody knows. It's not like they're hidden. It's not a secret. They just are who they are. It's like, so the people here are like, I guess the equivalent of like race in our real world, right? Yeah. Chinese people, Indian people here, you have vampires and werewolves or whatever. So, so there's races in the thing. It's like these beings are the thing. That's what kind of like separates us visually, but everybody is accepting of them. There's a little bit of like, stereotypes toward vampires, toward werewolves, toward zombies, and like zombies, for example, in this world aren't deadly. Well, they are. If they bite you, you'll turn into a vampire, but they're not like an apocalyptic situation. They're kind of like vagrants roaming around the street. So if you live in like more of like a poorer neighborhood or a less developed neighborhood, you'll have zombies roaming around the streets, like you would have like crackheads in like a crappy part of your regular city, but you'll have zombies roaming around and people just kind of deal with them. They dodge them. They're slow zombies. So people have just adapted to this situation. Like, you can get a great place in a zombie infested neighborhood if you're just if you're willing to deal with zombies. And you notice that right away in the page one of the book, or page 1 and 2. You'll see there's like, it's a zombie outbreak, but then it's quickly wrapped up because the zombie extermination team comes in, cleans that all up, and it's just another day. So yeah, as you can see here. So, and like Jack is more concerned with, he's got gravy on his fries than there's a zombie outbreak happening in the city, because it happens all the time. It's like, zombies walked into a populated area. Let's clean them up. Let's ship them off to where we have to. And there's also this kind of like underlining joke that I'm curious if people will pick up on. The more you read the issues, you'll notice that zombies have an affinity for pools. So
yeah,
ending, you'll see there's like a zombie, like you'll see a zombie head in the pool. Or you'll see a zombie walk into the pool, and there's it's toward the end. Where is it? See a scroll.
I think am I ahead of it?
Keep going. No, keep going back. You're
there. He is.
So yeah, it's got a pool, and there's just a zombie in there. Nobody comments that there's a zombie in the pool. Zombies in the pool are just as common as finding leaves in your pool. So that's one of kind of like the inner like gags, but it's never focused on. It's just a gag. And there's also, not to give anything away, in one of the future issues, I don't know if it's issues 2 or 3, there's a joke about like, but there's a pool, and then Jack says, there's always a pool, and you cut to it, and it's a pool just littered with zombies. It's like a pool that just hasn't been maintained at all, because it's a bunch of zombie heads floating in the water. and that's kind of like one of the jokes. So that's the humor, and it starts dealing with some serious situations, but deals with them in a funny kind of way. And
Yeah.
It seems kind of lighthearted in the beginning, and the whole thing's kind of lighthearted. It's got sarcastic humor throughout the whole thing, but at some point, like the mafia gets involved, and it gets tense. So not only is Jack dealing with situations of like, now he's a vampire. How do I get into my apartment? You know, yes, you have to be invited in. You can't invite yourself into your own apartment if you can't get into the apartment. There's also like a no vampire clause in that building complex. And there's a whole thing at the end of the story, right? Where he says no vampires. And then there's a whole conversation about how the person who runs their building is racist. It's like, no, the only thing you can do is kill him. And Jack's like, I'm not going to kill my landlord. Right. So there's that, they have that conversation. And so it kind of makes light of serious situations by, I guess, painting them on characters that don't exist, right? Like there's no vampires, there's no werewolves. So it makes light of these situations where really, if you think about it, they're kind of dark, but nobody takes themselves too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's one character that you'll see him in the future. He'll take himself very seriously, and he's great. I think he's a great character, but that's a surprise coming up.
Yeah, no spoilers. Avoid those. So Mark, thank you. My apologies there for having to dip out real quick. No worries. Thank you for being amazing and taking on the host role there for a minute. I have to say this book is. I don't know the word to give it. It's odd. It's refreshing. The jokes in it, the humor were fantastic. And I definitely didn't expect the protagonist to be the protagonist. I definitely thought in some twist he was going to get eaten by like a zombie. And the story would continue with the young woman that the book starts with. And then it just like goes left and it just runs with it. Like, how, I guess, what made you, given the time difference between when you wrote it and now, like just 14, 15 years, long time, how much of, I guess, the original voice that you had back then stayed, and how much of it has been updated? And conceptually, is it the same thing that it once was, or is this?
It's the exact same script. I'd say I changed about 2% to deal with, like, I might have worded one thing here, or I might have updated something, like, I don't know, like I mentioned an iPhone or something, you know what I mean? Something that didn't exist before. And but it's like, 98% is still exactly how I wrote it. So nothing's really changed at all.
That's impressive. Like, I obviously assume for Marco's sake, you updated how you wrote the script, like the structure.
I updated the panel description.
Yeah,
and that's because of Marco and the language barrier, and I wanted to make sure I gave him as much detail as possible. So I really like blew up those expansion, those panel explanations, and they're very detailed panel explanations. So in some cases, I'll just, I could be like, I just need Jack to burst in through this door with his hair on fire and he's slamming the door shut or something like that, right? And he'll do it. He'll give me whatever angle. But then there's sometimes I was like, the angle of this has got to be very specific. So I drew it like I need to see like down the street, but I need the street to look exaggerated wide. I need it to have like the curve of the earth because it's so wide. I need it to be small here. I needed the thing to be. I was like, this is what I need the scene to look like exactly. This respect. Normally it's whatever, but sometimes I'll hone in on like I need this to be the shot exactly. A lot of times it's because it's part of the joke or part of the story.
Yeah,
right? It's part of the punchline. Or it's setting up a scene for later on. So, and one of the things that even I miss is, I can't say, I almost give you a spoiler. there's a consistency issue that comes up. It's not an issue. We've handled it every time. But let's say you're missing your 2 front teeth, This is just an example, right?
Yeah.
But there's tons of panels where you're smiling, you have your 2 front teeth. So it's like, we'll go through them. We have to go back and remove his teeth. I forgot. I didn't even notice. And like Marco misses that sometimes. Like it's not a normal thing. You just drawing like, here's your teeth, you're smiling. Again, teeth is not the issue in this. It's a little more severe, but you'll notice that in book 2. Book 2, page 1, you'll see it right away. So, and I actually think it might be in the promo page if you go to the last page where it says like coming soon to Kickstarter, I think. Where is it? Let's see. Yeah. So here somewhere. Oh, you can't notice it because actually it's hidden behind the banner.
Oh,
the banner that says Kickstarter. Yeah. So in there, that's the issue. So that was, and that character smashing the phone, that's the guy who takes things very seriously.
Yes, I would agree.
He's introduced in book 2. That's Mr. DeLuca. He's one of my favorite characters to write for. So
right on.
He definitely brings an intensity to the story, which actually you'll get a hint of if you read some of these bubbles, but there's not enough here to actually let you know what's happening in this page. Yeah. Because the actual what's above the banner and what's below the banner is 2 different pages.
You've just spliced them. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so
smooth.
Okay. Hey, well, sorry. Let's go. Let's do this.
Well, one thing I want to shout out really quick. So for anyone out there watching now or later, pre-recorded during the campaign itself, you can read this. This is actually, I'm just going to drop it right in chat, or I guess the comments. But I've put the link right in there. Go to Global Comics, search up So-Called Living, enjoy the first whole chapter, which is fantastic that you've put it out.
I have something I could share.
Oh, go for it. Here, let me bring that down.
I'm just logging in. I can actually give you a sneak peek of my Kickstarter page.
Oh,
but
please do.
It's just so you know, there's prices on there. Those prices are going to change. I just needed some numbers up there. I'm very much get placeholders in there to change things. So the prices of all the books are actually going to be lowered. So
cool.
But I just basically took what's everybody charging on Kickstarter, threw it in there because I just needed something. So let me screen share.
So I have a question for you then, Mark. So normally at about the 15 to 20 minute mark, I ask this. For the folks who've maybe never done a Kickstarter before, what is sort of the minimum buy-in, and then what's like some of your higher crazy weird tiers that are out there? Have you settled on a final price for everything?
So yeah, I'm looking at it seems like the common price for a single issue book that's not like a big trade or
like a flop.
Is about anywhere from $10 to $15 on Kickstarter. And I get that. And like they're more expensive than Marvel comics. Like Marvel goes anywhere from $3.99 to $6.99 to $9.99, depending on the issues. Because I buy comics every week, so I'm familiar with those, and those are American prices. So I'm looking at I'm probably going to sit around $12.50 an issue.
Oh, okay,
so and you're going to buy them in bundles, so it's going to be like $25 for the bundle 1, and you get 2 physical copies and the digital copies for free. But you can buy the digital copies separately, which will be cheaper. So yeah, let's screen present, and then I'll But yeah, I'm still got to fill more stuff out in here. This is just a work in progress. Please keep that in mind.
When is the campaign officially releasing?
Hold on, let me load this up.
Sorry, I keep.
No, it's sorry. Let me. How do we? I see Kickstarter. I see. I've never shared a screen on this before, so let's see what's happening here. Do you see something?
Not yet. You'll know.
All right.
Oh, I see that it is available in StreamYard.
Yeah.
Do you see the option to add to presentation?
I see the option to stop sharing.
Oh, okay. So let me add it in then.
Whoop. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, all I saw was stop sharing. So
okay.
So this is the inside level of Kickstarter page. Now, one thing you'll note, can you see my mouse? You can. This purple book back here, That is a placeholder for one of the artists that we're getting. Is I can actually walk you through what we have here. We'll go through it as you'll see that book in here coming up.
Sure.
So I'll just walk you through here. So, anyways, the Kickstarter page as it starts, I'm also basing it on kind of what I've seen information of people. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm mixing up two different flavors. I've seen a lot of comic book Kickstarter pages that for me are just there's a lot of information. There's actually I find it confusing. For me, I find it confusing.
Okay.
But they've been very successful. So I'm clearly the minority of like, so I'm not like knocking anybody's page down or anything. But what I'm familiar with is board game Kickstarters because I've backed a lot. I've done a lot of content for them as in like, I haven't posted them. This is my first Kickstarter, but I've done videos that people have used on their pages. So I've backed so many board games, and I've noticed board game pages tend to be, at least from the majority of comic book pages that I've seen on Kickstarter, simpler and easier to follow, less information. Where I've seen Kickstarter pages are just like blocks and blocks of text. This is the most text you're going to see is right here, because once we start getting into here, then I start giving you just a taste. So you can see 5 of the pages from the first book. And then if you click down here, you can continue the story, and this will take you right to the entire book 1.
Oh, nice.
So if you don't want to, you can get a bit of a taste of like the first few pages, click on there, and you can continue reading there. And then you can see I've clipped little bits of art, so you get little sneak peeks of like this guy here reading the newspaper. He's from book 2. These 3 characters here, Jack in the middle, that's book 2. And you notice that there's this bunny motif kind of through the whole thing. And there's
I've seen that. Noticed that.
A little bit of mention of bunnies in the first issue. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, but bunnies in this world are their own thing. And they're not rabbits, they're bunnies. And what they are, you'll have to kind of read and find out. Like, or what, not what they are, but they're bunnies. But what's the deal with the bunnies? You'll have to read to find out.
Okay.
So anyways, so I have my intro, and you see there's like bunny motif through the whole thing. So this is kind of like what I'm offering, book 1 and 2, and then there's variant covers for each of them. Each of them have 3 covers.
Oh, cool.
Now, I'll go through them. So we have the digital that we're offering, and again, this $14. All the prices you see are all temporary, just placeholders. I just wanted something to design this page. So there's our standard covers. The guy is sitting in a box of chili fries, and Jack's head on fire, with a bunch of characters. And you'll notice actually in that issue, there's 3, 4, 5 characters. Actually, all those characters are just book 2 characters.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, they're all Jack. It's Jack's head that's on fire in that photo, and then there's a bunch of characters introduced in book 2. And then,
Mark,
sorry,
do forgive me. I'm so sorry. I've got to bounce it really quick once again. Can you continue?
Yeah, I'll continue. Thank you. No problem.
My apologies.
So, then once you start getting into here, then we start offering like different variant covers, and I didn't know what to call these, so I called them elite covers. These could change, or the titles can change. Not the covers aren't going to change. One of them, the one on for issue number 1, it's mostly purple. That's just a concept sketch from Derek Luffman, who's running a Kickstarter right now, actually. And Derek's old friend of mine. He's a great artist, so he's doing one of the variant covers. That's a rough concept of how it's going to look. The only difference is back here under Jack's foot, there's a zombie that's going to be replaced with a little bunny. And it'll make sense when you catch up to that. Over here on book 2, I'm using actual photography of Toronto that's done by a very talented artist who's got an Instagram page you can follow. It's called Ashton Techno Prasad. I think it's Ashton Techno on Instagram, I believe is his account, but his whole name is Ashton Prasad, and he's got techno kind of jabbed in the middle there. But he's a beautiful photographer, and I wanted to include his art. So one of the variant editions is a photo he did of Toronto, and I also hit a bunny in there, which you can barely see. Then we have our sex pot covers. Now, sex pot covers, I'm kind of bummed Konrad isn't here to listen. Now, the one on the right, that's for book 2. That's Jamie's contribution. It was so that is one of the characters kinda from book 2, and that's kinda a character from book 1. And I say kinda because of this. Here's the deal with the sex bot covers. So upon all my research of Kickstarter books and successful campaigns, what I've noticed, you know what? I'm gonna wait for Konrad to come back on that because I think he'd want to hear that. And then I have this kind of like all-in-one package. If he doesn't get back in the next few minutes, I'm just gonna continue. He's not coming back. He's gone forever. So I have an all-in package where you can just get all the covers and the digital versions for which, again, not that price. Anyways, let's go back up here. So as you can see here, I got the obligatory sex pot edition. So what I've noticed in a lot of like Kickstarter comic book try that again. What I've noticed in a lot of comic book Kickstarters is there's a lot of like sexy characters, like and the protagonist is usually like a very scantily clad, just sexy woman, and she's throughout the whole thing, and it's a common thread. Don't believe me? Look up comic books on Kickstarter. It's a common thread throughout Kickstarter. So, but So-Called Living is nothing like that. There is no sexy characters in all of So-Called Living. Actually, correction. There's one, but you're not really going to see her in the first 8 books. But through these series, there's not a single sexy character. So what I did was I had this idea of making these obligatory sex pot edition with the joke that, you know, if you want to run not like, I like a sexy cover, and I'm not really, it's kind of poking fun, but not I don't mean it in a mean way. I mean it in a playful way where it's like, you're back. Just in the middle of explaining the obligatory sex pot edition, which is helping up to speed. All Kickstarters have 50 girls on the covers, not all of them, but the large majority of the ones that are well funded. So a little, kind of like a little inside baseball, I put together these sex pot covers, and I even have a badge on them that say obligatory sex pot edition. Like, if you want to have a Kickstarter with a comic book, you need to have a sexy cover. So the first girl is that cover there, the one with the milkshake. That's actually Jill, but it's like a sexy version of Jill. In the regular book, she's just wearing like a sweater, kind of like a roll up, like baseball tee type of thing. Tail, like there's nothing. She's
just normal.
Utter, right? You like so I thought, just do a crazy pinup, sexy, over the top version of Jill, put her on the cover for book 1 as a variant cover. And then for book 2, Jamie illustrated this one, which is another sexy, over the top version of the waitress character that's in book 2. Now, she shows like she's got a waitress outfit up to here. You know, it's there's nothing sexy about her outfit. She just work. But we decided to put a sexy version of it, and so we just basically glow up is a thing everybody's saying now, right? So we did on everybody to make these covers. So that's why we have the obligatory sex pot edition. As kind of, it fits the humor. It fits the humor of the book because they kind of make light of everything, and you can't deny that there's a lot of sexy comics. And as I was saying, when you're gone, I was like, I can appreciate a sexy cover. I like a sexy cover, but I have no reason to have one. But I was like, but because of that, I'm gonna have one. so
you know what? It's one thing where comics that are in no way sexual comics keep having them, and I'm like, you know what, we're all adults here, like we're enjoying what we're enjoying. There's nothing wrong with it.
And one thing that I wanted to bring up is that So-Called Living it's got a lot of like swearing in it, so people swear. I don't think it's excessively swearing, but there's swearing in it, but it's not gory. Like, there is like decapitations, but it's all done almost like a Warner Brothers cartoon, right?
Yes, it's not like very slapstick about it.
Yeah, so it's not like decapitations are clean cuts. There's like no gory blood or things coming up. And like, if you see anything like that, it will be to make it funny. Like, there's no gore in there for the sake of gore. Not that I'm necessarily against it, but it doesn't suit the vibe of the book. So it's not in there.
That's one thing that I thought was super cool about this book was as I'm reading it. One, I did not think that the main character was going to be the main character. I thought the girl was going to be the focus, just because of the way all the interactions go down. The nonchalance with which people were addressing the zombie invasion, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Again, was very like cool, whatever. And I'm reading this and I'm like, am I missing something? And then yeah, as the story goes on, and people can read it for free. So as my
It's
two
true.
favorite characters come on onto the page, the two vampires and sweaters and stuff, who are the least vampire-y vampires I've ever seen, and I love them. Yeah, it just like,
So
the book has a vibe, and I really like it.
here's the story about the characters, and I'll get into Nick specifically. I wrote background for all the characters of like who they are. Yeah, Nick's the one on the far left, the one in the black.
Yeah.
So, and Casper is the really big one in the background. So I wrote for all these characters, I have personality layouts. I've ripped images of like characters from TV and ways of dress. And I was like, think of them like this character, think of them like this. And here's
cool.
a personality. And here's like a little shortcut. Like if I'm describing a video game to you, I don't necessarily describe, oh, like this character runs and jumps over here and does this. And I was like, it's kind of like Mario, right? And then I was like, but he's got a gun.
Yeah.
So it's like, take a shortcut. So it's like, here's an image. And for Nick, it was at the time, well, it is still, it was Lobo from
Yes.
Comics, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the way he talks, other than saying Bastich, you know what I mean? Like, so he's like a really like tough, like straight to the point, like take no shit type of guy. And but then he can be charming, you know what I mean? Like, oh, come on, buddy boy. Like, at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and then I remember I wrote this 14 years ago, so the character doesn't change, his background didn't change. And then when I saw the boys come out, I was like, oh my God, Butcher. Nick is Butcher.
Billy Butcher.
So that's Nick is practically is Butcher. And as an obscure character reference, if anybody's ever watched Third Rock from the Sun, the young kid, the youngest kid, he's like the biggest actor that's come out of there, I think.
Yeah. Names don't go.
Anyways,
Yeah.
his girlfriend in that show, it was the reference for Jill.
Oh, okay.
Because at that time I had just collected all the Third Rock from the Sun DVD collections, and I was watching them, and I was like, oh, she'd be perfect for Jill.
That's so cool.
So that's my one of the obscure ones. But
I
I'm
love
glad you like Nick and Casper, because they're going to be main characters. You don't see them actually in book 2. There's a little hint. They don't show up in book 2, but you'll see from book 3 and on. There's going to be a lot of them. A lot of Nick and Casper. So,
like I think they speak a lot to the way the book is different than what most people are going to be used to with like a monster story. Because like I said, these are the least vampire-y vampires to ever exist. They are not suave, they're not gentlemanly, they're not particularly like that sort of English suave monarchy sexy. They are just like, I don't know how you came up with them, but I love them. They're fantastic.
They're like casual brutes.
Yeah. Like,
and they kind of got this personality. It's like we've lived a long time, we've seen everything, we don't really get thrown by anything. It's actually, there's a joke in there about the type of vampire you discussed, being like these emotional vampires, really deep and brooding.
Yeah.
And they refer to those vampires as forest fairies. So it's like, vampires in their cloaks, kind of like prancing through the woods, and basically kind of describing like the Vampire Diaries type of vampires.
Yeah.
But kind of exaggerating, like they're like, these are all just like the romance, like running around in velvet capes, seducing women and sparkling in the moonlight. And like that, they're all that. They're all the things that like, there's a certain people that love that aspect of it. But if you took out all the cool parts of that, of like what I guess mainly what men pull out of what they like out of the vampires, that's all filtered into Nick and Casper. So it's like the two
Yeah.
different. It's like usually they're kind of melded, but I really pulled them apart to make this like very, I guess like
That's so cool.
rough, tough guy. And then over here, the other type of vampires that they describe are the romantics, right?
Yeah.
But they don't like each other. So it's like it's because they don't fit Nick's style at all. So that's why he refers to them as forest fairies. And there's a part in the book where he's talking to Jack, and he's like, "Don't you dare turn forest fairy on me." And he's like, and basically says like, "I'm not one, so that means you're not one. That's how it works," But a part of him was worried. He's like, "No, like I just made you."
I love it. Like again, like the world you've set up in this book is fantastic. And I want to stress for the folks at home, when you back this book, one, you could just go read issue 1 now, but when you back it, you will get a physical copy of issues 1 and 2. And of course the digital along with it. Question, is issue 2 completed, or are you going to use the funds from
issue 2? Is actually issue 2 is completed. So issues 1 and 2 are fully completed. And as far as scripts are written, like I said, up to book 7, it's tight. Book 8, I just have to tighten up. But the story is done. And as soon as we start getting some funds from the Kickstarter, we can continue producing more content. So we want to get ahead of it. And the idea of the Kickstarter is to pay myself back. So, and we're not even like the amount we're asking for is not even enough to cover the entire cost. It's enough to cover enough of like, we're comfortable that we could take this and start on the next ones. Right. And hopefully it makes more than the requested amount, or the amount we put on there. And, the more the better, because then I won't be as stretched out. Oh, is there stretch goals? So we won't have stretch goals, but we just as of yesterday and today, me and Brittany were talking about add-ons. And
okay.
So we want to have like little add-ons that people can, just optional buy-ins that people can get, and we are actually going to make those by hand. Like we have a laser cutting machine, so we're going to design these things. Like one of the things we're playing with, we don't know actually if anybody has any ideas, toss them out here. We have gotten some rather like expensive ideas, so like keep in mind we're like, this is our first book. Okay, we're not working on like Robert Kirkman money. We're there's not going to be an action figure series of these guys. One thing we thought of that we could make is like we could do prints. We could do prints of it, but we have no excess art, so the prints would just be the covers. So we don't have enough money in the funds to just create extra art. But what we can do ourselves, we're thinking of, is doing like keychains was one of the ideas that came up. And one of the things we were thinking of doing, as I mentioned, bunnies is a thing, is a bunny keychain that would have so-called living logo on the back, but it would say we're calling them blood bunnies. Oh, and that's kind of like one of the terms where I've always been a fan of like, when you get a community of people and they get involved in something and they have like a name. So I always thought things would be in local living would be blood bunnies. And I kind of like that idea. And that's kind of an idea just playing around with. So having this thing is like, hey, here's a blood bunny like keychain. Again, we're just spitballing. We don't know if this thing's going to happen yet. Just ideas. We were talking about it 2 hours before we started recording this.
That's pretty cool though.
The idea, like, maybe if you get this keychain and you have it and we'll sign you up for a list and you get something else, or maybe a benefit or something in the future, maybe credit, or maybe if you have it on you and you see this as a show, you can get a discount on the book. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm just throwing that idea, trying to throw ideas out there. Like, I'd like it to be more than something like having some sort of meaning and being like, please be a part of our club. Because I'd love to grow this community of followers. Like, I've always wanted to kind of be a part. I like being part of of a community, right? And it'd be
Yeah.
cool if there was one. It'd be really cool if there was one started around like a story I written. That'd be awesome. So that's it. So yes, stretch goals, no, but add-ons, yes.
Hmm.
So, and we'll probably have an autograph tier. I got that was a tip I got from
Please do, yes.
from one of my friend of mine. Actually, it was Derek who gave me he's got a Kickstarter on right now. He gave me the tip of like, have a tier for autographs. I don't know if he does it for all his Kickstarters. He's done it for some of them. I don't know if I think his last one, most of the books already come with autographs. I don't know. I haven't read all the details. He put something up. I just back it. I back my friends. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna get this tier. Whatever I get, I'll get. So I was like, here's the number. Boop. I was like, this gets me everything I don't have. So every time I just back it and get everything I'm missing. But so I don't really look into the details. But yeah, he had the idea of the tiers and having one tier being like, this is where you can get autographs. But I was thinking of doing the autographs as an add-on instead of a tier. And the reason for that is then you don't have to autograph absolutely every book, which could really slow you down. So I'm looking at doing a limited run right now of like 2,000 issues per book.
Okay.
So, which is still a good chunk. Like I've looked at most of the Kickstarters, and most noobs like me who come out of there sell like 150, maybe 200 books. And so like I don't know how much I'm going to be able to sell, but like we'll sell them at shows and take them to like Fan Expo and Toronto Comic Con or whatever. Just TCAP. And have them there, and maybe have a few in local comic book stores, which would be awesome. Like I just want to be able to get my story out there more than anything. And if it does amazing, fantastic, we'll print more. But I think like 2,000 is way more than enough. Like Derek's Kickstarters do really well, and I don't know if he's ever gotten more than I doubt he's ever gotten 2,000. But he sells them at shows, like so.
Yeah, no, that one thing I will stress to you from everything I've learned from people is get enough to have excess so that you can have them at shows.
Yeah.
I also love the idea of having signatures or autographs as an add-on. Because some people really like them, some people really don't for whatever reason. I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but some people don't. But yes, all the things that you're mentioning, you're thinking about, I support. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I like the only problem is I can't get Marco's autograph because he's in Italy, and the way, and I'm learning a lot about shipping. So right now I'm talking to printers, and I was talking to two printers. I actually know a guy, I've had dinner with him, who owns a print factory in China. He does board games. So I know this guy, and it's his factory, and it's the second biggest board game production factory in China. But I talked to him, but he was a little slow on getting the response, and I figured shipping, I was kind of iffy on how much that would cost to get it from here. So talking to a lot of people here, they go to Marquis, which is in Montreal. So
okay,
a lot closer for us Canadians than China. So I'm going to go with Marquis. And as far as prints go, I can tell you that the Chinese prints were going to cost me half as less if I got them printed there. So there's a big price cut as far as printing cost, but I was concerned about like shipping and moisture with all the paper. And as I've never done it before, I don't want to really take risks of anything happening. So I was like, I want to support local. It's not not wanting to or trying to be cheap. It's like, I need to afford to do this. So,
yeah, exactly. It's expensive to do this.
It's not personal. It's an expensive endeavor. So I got the print pretty much ironed out, and now shipping, I've learned that Chit Chat seems to be a popular company that a lot of people use, and that's I think that's in it's like close. It's like Hamilton or Toronto.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's close, and I think, and then anyways, the idea is, the printers will ship them to you, to me, so myself. So I'll have all the books. so I can autograph them there. So that's why Marco
Oh,
get
perfect.
So I have them so I can autograph them, but then I have to package them myself. I put the labels on myself, and then I take those and I take them to Chit Chat, and then they deliver them. Now you'd think, why wouldn't you deliver them yourself? Well, because delivering anything in Canada is crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Our mail
Major.
system is broken. It's so expensive compared to the States, because I deal with a lot of people in the States, and every time somebody has to ship me a board game from the States, they're like, Jesus Christ. Like the cost of
Yeah.
like, we can ship a giant box like I have one here that just was shipped to me. We can ship a giant box like that in the States. I have $10. Here, this is gonna be like anywhere from what $30 to $50 to ship this thing. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's crazy. And so it's like 5 times more expensive than the States. But if you go to Chit Chat, that's one of them. I was like, it's not a name of a shipping company for me. Like
that's interesting.
I don't get shipping from them. It's not Ship Chats. So, but anyways, the idea is you take it to them. This is what I'm learning still. I haven't talked to Chit Chats yet, but talking to people who've used them. You take to them and then they deliver it, and it's a lot cheaper. So something that would cost us normies like $13 to $16 to ship would cost them $7 to $10. So it's a lot cheaper because they ship in bulk, so they get deals with whoever they use, FedEx or whatever. So I think that's why I've seen a lot of the shipping costs in Canada cost like $10, and I think a lot of Kickstarters just kind of round it up to $10 to make it easier, shipping within Canada and North America, because it might be more expensive in some places and not the others, but it's like a difference of like $2. And again, I'm just guessing because I haven't set my shipping cost.
Okay,
I don't know what the final cost is, because I don't know how much this stuff weighs. And until I know, I might be talking out my ass. So I have no idea. Fair. So I'm just kind of going on what I've seen and what I've read, because I'm very much like research. So
okay, well, you know what, I will have some people, maybe I'll put you in touch with, who've got a lot of experience doing this, and maybe they'll be able to help out a little. At least I hope. But that being said, Mark, we are a little bit past the hour, and that's a-okay. Don't be. We've talked good comics, people, always. The name is scrolling right across the screen now. Google it. Find it on Kickstarter. The notification page is out, so people can go and enjoy and get the notification, and then go on Global Comics, read the whole first issue, fall in love with it like I have, and then back it. And again, you said the sort of minimum buy-in ballpark $12.50 will get you issues 1 and 2, correct?
No, $12.50. It's $25 for issue 1 and 2.
Yes,
yeah.
There we go. So $12.50 an issue. And I feel like issue 1 is a fairly chunky issue anyway, which is fantastic.
Oh,
so
and here's a little tip. We're working on this kind of like little marketing campaign. Oh, you asked about when it was released. I was going to release it in November, but actually we've pushed it because November's not a good time for spending. No. So we're going to push it till like beginning of March, late February.
Okay.
And again, the books are done, but we're going to also try to get awareness out and get the book out. And that's why, like, thanks for having on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It really helps. So we're looking at marketing campaigns, and one of the companies we're looking at is Launch Boom, and they have a lot of information. If anybody's starting Kickstarter, I recommend looking into Launch Boom, and they help out a lot of Kickstarters, and they give you step-by-steps of like how to run your Kickstarter, how to promote for your Kickstarter, et cetera, and get the word out there. But one of the things I'm going to be doing is there's this email. I don't exactly know. I'm still learning, but something like an email VIP list you get on. Currently, I'm trying to figure out how you actually give this discount. But if you sign up, it's like you pay $1 now to become part of this list. Okay. And it's like you join a VIP group. And then that $1 gets you like a percentage off your Kickstarter backing, which is way more than $1.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So you might pay like $1 now, save $10 when you back it. I don't know what the math is. I'm just throwing out numbers.
But interesting.
So it's a VIP thing, and they encourage that to do, because you build up a mailing list and keep people in touch. And apparently you get more of like return people, like people who are interested returning to the actual Kickstarter, because you can click follow and then it comes up and like, I don't want to. But if you paid $1, then you might be, those people are
you're already committed. Sort of bought in.
Yeah. So, and the $1 gets you a big discount. on the like it gets you a fairly substantial discount when it comes out. What I'm trying to learn now is like the current step we're on now is like, okay, I think I figured out our discount. We got to nail down our prices. And but I don't know how to apply this discount currently. Now it's doable. People have done it. So I have to figure out how to apply it. Because I'm a noob to Kickstarter. So all I know is like you pick a tier, you pay for that tier. Now if you pick a tier, how do I give you,
how do you get the discount?
How do I give you money back? Like that's weird. That seems clunky, right? Like there's got to be a clean way to do it, but I don't know what that is. So I'm still in this process of learning how to do that.
I dig it. Mark, this is so cool. This is interesting. I wasn't aware Kickstarter could do that, but I like the idea. That being said, we're a little bit over.
Sorry, I'll stop talking.
No, it's all good. What I did want to say, Mark, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight and speak to us about So-Called Living.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I love comic books and I love being in comic books. I hope everybody loves the story. Like I'm a fan of it. It's gotten great feedback so far. So
yeah,
and that's
awesome.
it.
Yeah, go find it. Again, the book is there. The title is scrolling across the screen. Find it on Kickstarter, hit notify, and then hop onto Global Comics and read the first issue. And absolutely, again, Mark, thanks so much for taking the time. And for the folks at home, comment down below what you think of Mark, the book, if you've read it. So many commenters already saying it's amazing, so just go and join them and subscribe for more. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2. Collector problems, cliffhangers.